Hearing tomorrow in the Scott Peterson matter, and we'll cover that and other issues dealing with the law. On Thursday night, we'll devote our entire attention to the President's visit to Africa. Our special guest will be the Secretary of State, Colin Powell. We'll also have Bob Woodward of the Washington Post. And Friday night, an hour with Queen Noor. We hope you enjoyed Robert Mueller, the Director of the FBI. NewsNight is next. Good night.
Good evening again. Race, that most intractable American issue, shows up in the program in many ways and many forms. Tonight, the president visits the place where African men, women, and children were shipped to America to be slaves, bought and sold. That story focuses on both what the president said and what he didn't say. And race, too, is at the heart of a story out of Chicago, and the Chicago Cubs manager, Dusty Baker, who had some remarkable things to say about race. None of these racial stories are very comfortable to report, but it is where we are tonight. We begin the whip in Liberia, a country that is a living legacy of freed American slaves. The question is whether the president will send a contingent of peacekeepers in. Today brought a taste of the danger U.S. troops might face. Jeff Kanangi is in Monrovia tonight. Jeff, a headline.
Good morning from Monrovia, Aaron. A dramatic day, although albeit one filled with a bit of diplomatic bungling on the parts of the U.S. and Liberian governments, leaving the U.S. military assessment team here wondering what the rest of the tour will be like. Aaron?
Jeff, thank you. Back to you shortly. A break in a Philadelphia murder case gone cold for more than a decade. The murder of a child. Jason Carroll worked the story. Jason, the headline.
And Aaron, a source close to the case says that police now have a written confession in addition to new DNA evidence. Our former friend of the family now in custody, and finally, for Heather's family, a sense of vindication. Aaron.
We'll get the details on that coming up. Also tonight, a fresh look at another mystery, a very different one. Decades after the fact, why did the Israelis attack an American ship during the Six-Day War? David Ensor worked that. So, David, a headline.
Aaron, the U.S. National Security Agency put declassified secrets on its website tonight. They're tapes and transcripts of Israeli pilots and ground controllers on that fateful day back in '67. One historian tells us the evidence shows that it was all a terrible mistake. But another historian says it suggests Israel may actually have attacked the American ship on purpose.
David, thank you. We'll get to your report tonight as well. Also coming up on the program, growing questions about how false information about Iraq and uranium from Africa ended up in the president's State of the Union address when he was trying to convince the country to go to war. The question for Dusty Baker, the Chicago Cubs, what was he thinking? Where did he get these harebrained ideas about race and who can best handle the summer heat? And why did he talk about it anyway? We'll get the story. We'll also talk with scholar of all things Chicago, Bob Green. Our nightly fix for the most insatiable of news junkies out there, that would be you, the people who have to know tomorrow's news tonight. Our look through morning papers from around the country, and we'll also talk about what the president didn't say about slavery and should have in the eyes of one critic, Harvard Law professor Charles Ogletree, and the men, two of them leading the commission investigating 9/11, about why they haven't gotten the open doors and the open files they need to do their work. All that and more in the hour ahead. We begin by a day dominated by the country's history with race in all its complexity, and we begin with the president's trip to Africa. Today, Mr. Bush came face to face with history already written. But more importantly, he also confronted the current chapter, the one with his name on it not far away. Also in West Africa, CNN's Suzanne Malveaux, traveling with the president.
President Bush, emerging from a meeting with West African leaders, vowed to work with them to enforce the ceasefire in Liberia, but stopped short of committing U.S. troops.
We're in the process of determining what is necessary to maintain the ceasefire and to allow for a peaceful transfer of power.
The president again called for Liberia's leader, Charles Taylor, to leave as quickly as possible to clear the way for an international peacekeeping force. The administration is still waiting for the American assessment team in Monrovia to recommend what the U.S. should do next. Events in Liberia have overshadowed Mr. Bush's initial Africa agenda to open markets and fight AIDS. But on Senegal's Gorée Island, he did promote his vision of Africa's future by recognizing an aspect of its past. by speaking at a former slave house where millions of Africans were forced onto ships headed to America.
Human beings were delivered and sorted and weighed and branded with the marks of commercial enterprises and loaded as cargo on a voyage without return. One of the largest migrations of history was also one of the greatest crimes of history.
Earlier, Mr. Bush met with Senegal's President Wade. Senegal is a staunch U.S. ally in the war on terror, a thriving democracy in an overwhelmingly Muslim country. But on the eve of Mr. Bush's arrival, some protested the president's trip. Mr. Bush's next stop, South Africa, a country where nearly 13% of its population is infected with AIDS. There, President Bush will highlight his $15 billion five-year initiative to fight the disease. Conspicuously absent will be elder statesman Nelson Mandela, who has been highly critical of President Bush for the U.S. war with Iraq. Suzanne Malveaux, CNN, Dakar, Senegal.
More now on the scouting team that is already in Liberia. Today it was afforded a rare opportunity of seeing quickly and without any digging the upside of a larger American presence, but also the price to be paid, none of which will make the president's decision any easier. Reporting for us tonight, CNN's Jeff Kanangi.
Tens of thousands of jubilant Liberians celebrating the arrival of the Americans. The team hit the ground running on day one, hoping to see just how desperate the situation in Liberia is. This is hardly what they were expecting. Waving U.S. flags and chanting songs of praise, the crowd brought the convoy to a virtual standstill. But it didn't take long for the first signs of resistance to appear. This is the Iron Gates checkpoint, run by government troops about 6 miles outside the capital. The road heads north towards a massive refugee camp, beyond which is rebel-held territory. Government soldiers, most of them appear to be teenagers, stand guard in defiance.
Until we get a meeting with the government of Liberia, they won't let us go any further than this.
The Americans consult with U.S. Ambassador John Blaney, and the decision is made to turn back.
JJ!
But it's not all good news for the Americans. Here at the Iron Gates checkpoint, they've been told to turn around. The word hasn't come from on high that they can proceed beyond that point. So the entire convoy is turning around and heading back towards Monrovia. But the Americans quickly discovered they were in for another surprise. Gunshots fill the air, and the friendly crowd, all too accustomed to the sound, quickly disperses. This is crowd control, Liberian style. The convoy speeds off, leaving Liberians scattered in all directions. Embattled President Charles Taylor responded immediately to what he called a diplomatic boo-boo by the Americans.
It makes a lot of good sense that some coordination be done between that team and at least an agency of the Liberian government to make sure you are secure where you want to go, that you can move anytime unimpeded. That was not done, and I think it's being done right now and will take you wherever you want to go. I think it was a slip-up on the part of the embassy.
After further negotiations, the U.S. humanitarian assessment team later in the day did inspect several refugee camps in Monrovia. They expect to be able to return to the Iron Gates checkpoint soon to continue their mission. Now, Aaron, the U.S. military assessment team is hoping day two will be less dramatic and more productive as it hits the streets once again, trying to determine the scope of relief required by the suffering people of Liberia. Aaron.
Jeff, thank you very much. Jeff Kanangi in Liberia tonight. Today, with the president out of the country and the evidence overwhelming, the administration fessed up to something that's been clear for a while now. They admitted that the president's assertion that Iraq was trying to obtain uranium from an African country was wrong. An assertion the president made in his State of the Union speech while he was trying to build support for the war. What is less clear is how it ended up in the president's speech in the first place. Who vetted the information? What intelligence agencies developed it and analyzed it? It may or may not become a political problem for the president. It's too early to know. It's surely an embarrassment. Here's CNN's Dana Bash.
President Bush, in his State of the Union address 6 months ago, aggressively building a case for war against Saddam Hussein.
The British government has learned that Saddam Hussein recently sought significant quantities of uranium from Africa.
Senior Bush officials have acknowledged for months intelligence Iraq was trying to buy nuclear material from the African nation Niger was false, but did not admit the president's statement was wrong until now. The other reporting that suggested Iraq had tried to obtain uranium from Africa is not detailed or specific enough for us to be certain that such attempts were in fact made, said White House spokesman Michael Anton. Because of this lack of specificity, this reporting alone did not rise to the level of inclusion in a presidential speech. Secretary of State Colin Powell told reporters last month he chose not to use the information in his UN speech because it, quote, wasn't solid enough. Former Ambassador Joseph Wilson revealed he went to Niger for the CIA to look into the claim and told them last year it was suspect. White House officials say the president would not have knowingly cited false intelligence, saying they didn't learn of the error until after the State of the Union. Democrats are demanding,
why? Why didn't they know? I mean, all 14 intelligence agencies basically work for the president. He is the final receiver of intelligence and analysis. Now, they give him the best analysis they have. They had fairly much broadly discounted this whole Niger problem.
I think it's all the more reason why a full investigation of all of the facts surrounding this situation be undertaken.
White House officials are, however, standing by the claim Saddam Hussein was trying to reconstitute his nuclear program, saying other classified intelligence still supports it. Public opinion polls show most Americans are increasingly concerned about the post-war effort, but not as worried weapons of mass destruction haven't been found. Republicans are banking that could help here.
The fact that they had to put out a retraction, the fact that we're having to sit here and talk about it now, it's not a positive thing. But between 1 and 10, this is a 1. Other issues are more important.
Even some Democratic presidential candidates voting for the war in Iraq see an opening here, calling this a credibility issue. Dana Bash, CNN, the White House.
Another knotty problem continues to be the whereabouts of Saddam Hussein, more so now that you can't seem to turn around without coming across a tape with his voice on it. Today another surfaced. It aired on Lebanese radio, calls for Iraqis to step up the fight against the occupation. Another development may shed some light on Iraq's role or lack of Iraq's role in the 9/11 attacks. American officials today confirm they pick up an Iraqi intelligence officer last week. He is the man one source claimed met in Prague with hijacker Mohammed Atta. American intelligence officials, have their doubts, however, that such a meeting ever took place. Atta was, according to all accounts, in the United States at the time. A few more items from around the world making news tonight. President Bush today announcing plans to provide financial assistance to the Palestinian authorities, $20 million to shore up Prime Minister Abbas. The money would be earmarked for roads and services in areas vacated by Israel. The announcement on a day when the Prime Minister threatened to step down over differences with Yasser Arafat's Fatah organization. An airliner went down in the Sudan today. 115 people lost their lives. Looking at the crash site, it's hard to imagine anyone could have survived. But the reports are that a little boy did. Who he is, how old he is, the rest of the story, less than clear tonight. He was one of 17 children on board. From Singapore, the work of dozens of doctors wasn't enough. Neither was the best in medical technology. 2 Iranian girls joined at the head died today in the 3rd day of the operation to separate them. Head on Newsnight, a 16-year-old murder mystery solved. How the pieces came together when we return. And a little later tonight, a mystery from the sea. The story of the USS Liberty, declassified. This is Newsnight on CNN.
Newsnight is brought to you by Audi and the all-new A8L, the world's most intelligently designed car.
New Audi A8L, the world's most intelligently designed car.
Okay, Here's the paperwork to apply for your new home loan. I'll check back in a couple of hours to see how you're doing.
But I thought the bank had reduced the paperwork to get a mortgage.
Ooh, right. There you go.
Want to refinance or cash out some equity? Call Ditech.com now for a low fixed rate mortgage.
Oh no. Bust another loan to Ditech.
Ditech.com. Call 1-800-71-FIXED.
CNN Thursday, Secretary of State Colin Powell. Will U.S. troops go to Liberia, and why can't Saddam Hussein be found? Only on Larry King Live, CNN Thursday, 9 Eastern.
My daughter was born at 8:33 a.m. At 8:34 a.m., my mom's on the phone in tears asking when she could see her granddaughter. A minute after that, she does.
Introducing the cool new camera phone from Singular. Just shoot and email instantly to your friends and family. It's simple. Plus, sign up for select calling plans now and you'll get this sleek Sony Ericsson camera phone free.
I call it the Tim Simcoe Smile for the Phone plan.
Come in today and see how Singular fits you best.
Appearing on the Mercedes-Benz stage, July 9. X. Jason and the Scorchers. Hoping to bring live music to the mix. See you in the mix. Uptown Mix.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Heather Coffin would be all grown up now, but for her parents, she is still their 10-year-old girl, raped and killed one night in 1987 at a home in Philadelphia. A girl whose killer has gone free all these years. But now there has been an arrest thanks to the kind of DNA analysis that didn't exist when Heather was just a regular 5th grade kid. Long time coming for a family that is still raw from their loss. Reporting for us tonight, CNN's Jason Carroll.
For 16 years, Heather Coffin's family lived with the pain of not knowing who killed their 10-year-old girl. Someone quietly broke into her bedroom one night, raped, and then strangled her. But now a break in the case, an arrest of a former friend of the family, and sources close to the case say a written confession to the crime.
I never knew that I would ever know anybody could come in, rape, strangle, and kill your daughter. And I hope he's looking at me or give him the TV to look at me. This is all I have left.
Early Tuesday, police arrested Ray Sheehan at his Philadelphia home, located just a few miles from the Coffin home. Police say new DNA technology enabled them to match samples taken from Sheehan years ago.
This individual defendant was on our radar screen at the time this thing happened. I understand he had been interviewed 2 or 3 times before, but didn't have any physical evidence to tie him into the case until we got the results back that we have now.
If she were alive today, Heather would have been 26, the oldest sister. Now Danielle, the oldest at 23, says for most of her years, she has had to defend her father against accusations.
My dad went through so much. Everybody's saying that it was my dad. Everybody's saying, when I would go to school, people saying, oh yeah, you're the sister that your dad killed your other sister.
For Heather's father, finally, a sense of vindication, but the anger toward the suspect is as strong as ever.
I would have killed you instantly, the same way you did my daughter. I hope you rot in hell, you bastard.
Obviously a lot of emotion still there. Coffin says that he always suspected Sheehan but was unable to prove it. We tried to reach out to Sheehan but were unable to reach him. It is likely that he will enter some sort of a plea tomorrow. Aaron?
And you said earlier that you're being told there is a confession?
That is correct, Aaron. According to sources that are close to the case, there was some sort of a written confession to police, that coming early today, apparently, when he was arrested at his home.
Thank you very much, Jason. It's been a terrible day, actually, for crime around the country. And another crime story leads our national roundup tonight, this one from Meridian, Mississippi. A factory worker opened fire with a shotgun and a rifle at a Lockheed Martin plant. 5 of his co-workers were killed. before Doug Williams committed suicide. At least one co-worker described Williams as a racist, and others said he was mad at the world. He had an issue with everybody. An explosion today at a fuel tank in California. Monterey County fire officials say there were more than 1 million gallons of fuel in the tank. The owner of the tank, the giant Duke Energy Company, says all of its employees are accounted for. Also from California, the latest on the political uproar surrounding Governor Gray Davis. Organizers of the effort to recall the governor said today they have enough signatures to force an election, more than 1 million in all. The signatures now must be verified by county officials before they're sent to the Secretary of State for certification. But if enough are certified, an election would be called within 60 to 80 days. And Vice President Cheney got a clean bill of health from his cardiologist today after a routine checkup. His office says they found no signs of any heart arrhythmia. The vice president has had 4 heart attacks, had a pacemaker-like device installed more than 2 years ago. Coming up on Newsnight, President Bush's trip to Africa, his comments on slavery, and why some say he missed an important opportunity. Plus more talk about race. This time it involves a baseball manager and the rising summer temperatures. That and more as Newsnight continues around the world.
One of these cars is filled with new Shell gasoline. The gasoline specially formulated to give you better mileage. In fact, we have tests to prove it. So, if you took these 3 cars on an identical journey, new Shell gasoline would help one of them go farther.
With an allergy headache, every sneeze can hurt. Now there's new Advil Allergy Sinus. It's different. The first and only allergy relief with the pain-relieving power of Advil. It's advanced. A new study shows that when Advil is combined with its allergy medicine, you get better relief. It's here. Stopping allergies that hurt in a whole new way. Advanced to new Advil Allergy Sinus. Stop allergies that hurt.
Yeah, I take pride in my yard. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. We enjoy the fresh air, the sunshine. Of course, mosquitoes are a problem, but we manage.
Get the most out of your yard with Mosquito Magnet. This patented process silently and continuously kills mosquitoes and other biting insects. Protect your backyard with Mosquito Magnet. It's up to 50 times more effective than other traps.
Mosquito Magnet, fatal attraction.
No matter what you enjoy doing outside, you'll enjoy it more with Mosquito Magnet.
One new message.
Hey Ted, big spike in sales. Make it work.
Business changes rapidly, which is why HP ProLiant servers with high-performance Intel Xeon processors can be remotely managed from anywhere. So wherever you are, it's like taking your data center with you. Demand more. Demand HP ProLiant servers.
Every day, all over the world, millions of people receive Adobe PDFs. But few realize just how simple they are to create. Which begs the question, is it better to give a PDF or to receive one? The PDF from Adobe Acrobat.
President Bush, let me start this again, because this is important to get this right. The president said this while visiting Goree Island, a place where Africans long ago went through the door of no return and came out slaves. The president said we cannot push time backwards through the door of no return. We have lived our history. This is not President Bush we're talking about, but President Clinton 5 years ago, who spoke much as President Bush did today, stirring language about the great crime of slavery, but no formal apology. And no opening for those who want reparations paid to the descendants of slaves. We're joined now from Boston by one of the leading supporters of reparations, someone who thought today's speech was a lost opportunity, Harvard Law professor Charles Ogletree. Good to see you, sir.
Good to be here, Aaron.
The president, I thought, was quite eloquent today and quite moving in many respects. What didn't he say that he wanted to hear?
Well, there are a couple of things he said that I heard and that I think has the seeds of the need for an apology. He said, many of the issues that still trouble America have roots in the bitter experience of other times. But however long the journey, our destination is set, liberty and justice for all. Ending slavery was liberty, but justice requires more than just ending slavery. It requires an apology, and it requires some compensation for those who've been victims of slavery. President Bush had a wonderful opportunity to do that in Senegal. I'm hoping when he's in South Africa or Nigeria before he leaves Africa, he will have the courage, the moral courage to say, it was wrong, I apologize on behalf of the American people, and we have to move on.
Well, it seemed to me he called it wrong. He called it a crime. He described slave owners as small and corrupt. What you literally want to hear is, I gather, from the President of the United States, on behalf of the people of the United States, we're sorry?
Absolutely. At a minimum, because we should be sorry. This is a blight on America's history. It's one that we all learned about. It's one that we keep ignoring. President Clinton had the opportunity. He talked about it, but he also pulled back. But there is still a division in America based on a history that's rich with discrimination and rich with prejudice. President Bush, just a few weeks ago, in January, on Dr. King's birthday, talked about racial preferences and went against Michigan in the affirmative action case. And even though he is someone who he acknowledges benefited from preferences as a student at Yale. So we think about history, we think about going back, and yet we don't think about what happened to Africa. Africa was a land rich in resources. Africa was a land that was proud of its family, of its traditions. And Africa was a land that lost millions of its children. I'm not talking about just adults. These were 13, 14, 15-year-old women and men who worked until they died in the fields of America. They built the Capitol, the White House, the monuments. And I think that there's no single recognition of the great contributions of slaves in America. The least we could do is to say, you know what? It was wrong. And we apologize for it, and we need to find some way to redress that to avoid repeating history. We know those who fail to understand history are doomed to repeat it, and I'm fearful if we don't understand it, we're doomed to repeat it again.
Let me get to the redressing part in a second. Just quickly, why do you think it is so hard here for any representative of the American government at any point in time, President Clinton, President Bush, what have you, to say sorry?
I think they're worried about a lot of things as divisive, but every single time we talk about race, Aaron, it's divisive. When we talk about ending slavery, we lost more people in the Civil War over slavery than we did in any other wars. When we talk about the whole issue of civil rights, we lost more people from the violence of civil rights and more resistance because of race. Affirmative action, there's been a substantial resistance. We have not been able to talk about race in this country and have a real dialogue to go back and understand what happened and to come forward and to be a nation that's truly one of equal justice for all. And I think the president has the ability to do it. He is in Africa. He's talking about $15 billion for AIDS looking forward. And Africa is still suffering from centuries of colonialism and slavery that was very devastating.
On the question of reparations, when we talk about divisiveness and race as a divisive issue, it's hard to imagine one more divisive than that. Why ought there be reparations?
Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the slaves built this wonderful country. They made this country vibrant. They made it successful financially. It's not just the South. People always focus on the South, but when you read the works of great historians like Leon Litwack, when you look at the case I'm working on now with some great lawyers in Tulsa, the Tulsa race riots of the 1920s, you have people like John Hope Franklin. His father, Buck Colbert Franklin, a great lawyer, represented blacks who are still alive, who had their property destroyed, had their homes destroyed, had their lives taken as a result of a race riot. And you can't move forward in history without addressing those things that are real. And reparations for the victims of the Tulsa race riots in 1921, which we're fighting for now, is a classic example. Living Americans, through no cause of their own, lost their homes, lost their family, lost their property, lost their businesses in the Black Wall Street of the 20th century. It's a fair issue to raise. And also, if we're talking about the issues in America, issues of health care, education, employment, our goal is not just to talk about money, but to repair the communities that were damaged by Jim Crow laws, by the Klan, and by slavery. we can't really get beyond race without dealing with racism. That's what Justice Blackmun said in Bakke. I think that's what all of us should take very seriously.
We should continue this. It's an interesting thread of a conversation. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks, sir. Still to come on Newsnight, the first report from the 9/11 Independent Commission. We'll talk about the problems that the commission is having, plus taking the heat over race, what Dusty Baker said about the weather and the color of your skin. On CNN, this is Newsnight.
Did you know if you get AOL, you can get this alert that tells you have a phone call when you're online? No. Neither does Dad.
If you want to get your calls, you want to get AOL. Because AOL Call Alert tells you when you have a phone call when you're online. So you'll never miss another important call again. Sign up for AOL and get your first 45 days free. With AOL Call Alert included for up to 12 months.
A vision realized by the winds of change that shape our land, the United Arab Emirates. Seizing opportunity, inspiring confidence, fulfilling ambition. Dubai, crossroads of the new global economy.
One of these cars is filled with new Shell gasoline. The gasoline specially formulated to give you better mileage. In fact, we have tests to prove it. So, if you took these three cars on an identical journey, new Shell gasoline would help one of them go farther.
I'm Christine Romans with this Moneyline update. A rally in tech stocks led the NASDAQ to a 15-month high. The Dow rose 6 points, the NASDAQ jumping 25. Microsoft will no longer issue stock options to its employees, instead giving them stock grants. Watch Lou Dobbs tonight, weeknights at 6 p.m. Eastern on CNN. Now back to Newsnight with Aaron Brown.
And ahead on Newsnight, a question that never seems to go away, probably won't. Could 9/11 have been prevented? Will we ever know? We'll talk to the two men leading the commission trying to find out. A break first. This is Newsnight.
Moneyline Update is brought to you by Bank of America. Higher standards. For a snapshot of today's market movement, log on to CNN.com.
Don't you have work to do?
The mortgage. There. I'm done.
The mortgage application with 80% less paperwork. From Bank of America. Higher standards.
We like something a guest we had on last month said. Part of good citizenship is sticking your nose in the government's business. Stephen Push didn't learn that in his high school civics classes. He learned that on 9/11 when his wife was one of those killed in an event he now believes could have been prevented. Push is one of the people who fought the White House to create an independent 9/11 commission to look at what, if anything, went wrong. The commission came out with its first report today, and it says the commission is not getting the full cooperation it needs. We're joined from Washington tonight by the two men leading this commission, former New Jersey Governor Tom Keene and former Congressman Lee Hamilton. It's nice to see you both. Governor, let me start with you since you have the title. Is the White House dragging its feet? Is the administration dragging its feet? Why are you not getting the information you need?
I don't think it's necessarily that anybody's dragging their feet. In a lot of areas, the administration, and by administration I mean the white agencies, 16 different agencies we're trying to get information from, didn't, I don't think, recognize just what a job we had I mean, we have 44 different document requests out to 16 different agencies, and they're voluminous. We need boxes and boxes and boxes of information on everything from immigration, how these people get into the country, to money laundering, to all the tale of what happened to the FBI and the CIA. Huge amount of information. What's happening now is that we are starting to get much of that information. People are cooperating. Now, there's some agencies better than others. We commended some agencies in the report today, and we talked about people like the Department of Defense. They have a lot of information we need, and we're just not getting it. And if we don't get it promptly, we're going to have great difficulty doing our job on time.
And the on time matters here. The commission is expected to have its work done by May of next year. That is not much time to get this done. And if one were being cynical, one would say the delaying is a way to make sure that you can't make the deadline and you can't complete the work in an efficient way.
Well, that's true. But I'm an optimist, and I believe there are people of goodwill who are trying to help us out. The White House has expedited a number of our requests. On occasion, they've been very, very helpful when we've had trouble with other agencies. I've now set up a new system where hopefully we're going to have people working directly for the administration expediting our requests for a number of these agencies, and the next few weeks will tell the story. But if things work well, then I think we'll be able to do our job and do it well and do it credibly for the American people. But if we don't get this flow of information we need, it's going to be very difficult.
Congressman Hamilton, is it true that the administration to this point has insisted on having minders, if you will, sitting in on interviews with federal employees?
Yes, and we are objecting to that. We object to it because we think if there's a minder or another person, perhaps a superior official, in the room with the witness, that it would have a chilling effect. It might intimidate the witness. We would prefer to be able to talk to these witnesses individually. We've yet to work this out with the administration. But we are insisting that in a crucial point where the witness is important and where we think a representative of an agency presence would be chilling, would intimidate, we want in that case to be able to appeal to the administration so that we can talk to the witness by himself or by herself. This is an important matter for us. It is not yet resolved in our discussions with the administration.
Do you expect, Congressman, to question, I don't know if under oath is in play or not, but we'll put that on the table too, question under oath or otherwise President Clinton and President Bush, because the events clearly cross over the two administrations?
The commission has not discussed whether we would try to talk with Presidents Bush or Clinton. We certainly don't rule it out. We have a mandate to fulfill. We're going to fulfill that mandate, and we are going to talk with the people that it's necessary for us to talk to get the information we want. Our mandate is exceedingly broad. It covers all kinds of topics that have not yet been investigated thoroughly. And we will go to the witnesses that we think will help us understand the story and to make the recommendations that we need to make to the American people to make them more secure.
Gentlemen, either together or separately, you are always welcome here to discuss both the substance and the problems, however you want to do it. I hope you'll come back regularly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Head on the program, the connection between the rising thermometer and race. We're back on race again. Chicago Cubs' Dusty Baker has some thoughts on that. Plus, declassified 36 years later, the story of the USS Liberty. This is Newsnight from New York.
Let's see. Nationwide service. Yep. No roaming on network. Ditto. Long distance. Rollover. No rollover. Wow, there is a difference.
Only Singular lets you roll over unused anytime minutes so you avoid paying overages months you talk more. They're your minutes. Keep them. Singular has rollover on national plans and your choice of cool phones.
I call it my plan can roll over and yours can't plan.
Come in to find out how Singular fits you best.
Wow, I've never seen anything like that.
Me neither.
Do it again, Kyle.
Okay, you guys, this is real easy. All you have to do is push the buttons. Wow, this is great.
Want a faster, easier way to apply for a home loan, cash out equity, or consolidate bills? Just log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-DITECH-1.
Now you see how fast and easy that is?
Hey, let me on there.
Ditech.com and Kyle Busch. Speed guaranteed.
Protection. It's not what it guards you against. It's what it lets you do. Continue. Ace Group Global Protection.
Medical news from Centrum. A report in a leading medical journal recommends a multivitamin for all adults to help reduce the risk of heart disease and cancer. And the brand recommended most by doctors? Centrum. Always complete from A to Z.
Looking to put more miles in your tank? All Shell gasolines are now specially formulated to give you better mileage, helping to take you farther.
Tomorrow on CNN Early Prime at 5, Wolf goes toe-to-toe with Oscar De La Hoya on Life Outside the Ring. At 6, the risks and rewards of running your own business. Why do so many Americans run out of money and can't pay their bills? At 7, the curriculum controversy. Why Texas could decide what ends up in your kid's textbook. Wolf Blitzer reports. Lou Dobbs tonight, live from the headlines. It's all part of CNN Early Prime tomorrow.
Perhaps in a different world, there would be a special waiver for athletes and other sports figures who talk out of school, a kind of get out of the doghouse free card, good for one really stupid remark per career. Heavens knows it would be a hot item, handy for pro golfers who turn dietitian and speculate on another golfer's appetite for fried chicken, perhaps. Great for an odds maker with something to say about comparative genetics, or the baseball executive who also happens to dabble in sociology. But it is also a good fit for the latest customer, the manager of the Chicago Cubs, that's Chicago Cubs, who claims to know a thing or two about climatology and skin color. The report from CNN's Jeff Flock.
On a hot day like this at Wrigley Field, do blacks and Hispanics like Dontrell Willis and Sammy Sosa handle the heat better than whites like Mike Lowell? The Cubs manager thinks so.
It's easier for most Latin guys and easier for most minority people because most of us come from heat. We're brought over here for the heat, right? I mean, isn't that history? Weren't we brought over here because we can take the heat?
Now Dusty Baker's finding out if he can.
I already said what I said and it's done.
Baker started not so much a firestorm as a debate.
It's mostly ignorance, I think. Just uninformed babble is what it seems like to me.
He was basically speaking the truth from a historical standpoint.
Sportsman and race have been a historically bad combination. Golfer Fuzzy Zeller joking about Tiger Woods ordering fried chicken for the Masters Champions dinner in 1997.
Or collard greens or whatever the hell they say.
A decade earlier, the infamous Nightline interview of Dodgers general manager Al Campanis, who said blacks weren't fit to be managers.
I truly believe that they may not have some of the necessities.
CBS oddsmaker Jimmy the Greek Snyder explaining how black athletes were better because of slave breeding.
The slave owner would breed his big black to his big woman.
They all apologized. Campanis and Snyder were fired anyway.
Jimmy the Greek and Al Campanis talked about other ethnic groups. Dusty kept it to his own.
And there is the twist.
I can say stuff and call somebody of my color stuff that y'all can't call.
Even the noted sports sociologist Harry Edwards admits if Baker were white and said what he said.
But I think that person would probably be looking for a job. It's almost the distinction of a white person using the N-word and then a black person using the N-word. It has a different cast to it.
Edwards says there is no evidence to support the claim about blacks, Hispanics, and heat, though he notes Baker seems to be handling it pretty well. I'm Jeff Flock, CNN in Chicago.
Bob Green is an author, a commentator, a savvy observer of sports, and especially of human nature. and a friend of the program. We're glad to see him again. So why is this a big deal? I imagine it's a huge deal in Chicago, in part because the Cubs are winning.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, but Dusty Baker's going to be fine. He's a new, very popular manager in town. The Cubs are having what passes for them as a miracle season. I think they're one game over 500. So it's good to talk about, and it's good to think about, but he'll be fine.
Is it, I mean, there is in fact, oh, well, I don't want to say it that way. Does it seem to be that there is a double standard at play here?
In terms of who can say what?
Who can say what about whom, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, censorship is a bad thing. We know that. Self-censorship can be a very good thing. Self-censorship is when you know you can say what you want to, but you think you'll choose not to. Slavery is one of those topics that you're well advised not to use in any lighthearted or non-serious manner, especially when talking about something like your pitching rotation.
Is it, I mean, so much of where the country struggles, it's always seemed to me, centers around race. We seem unable to find a comfortable way to talk about it.
Well, I was thinking today, with President Bush in Africa, had you somehow been able to say to the Africans being loaded onto those slave ships all those years ago, the day will come when an American president will come here and stand on this soil and say what is being done to you right now is one of the worst crimes in the history of mankind. And on the same day, in the news across the ocean, there'll be a story about the manager of a baseball team, and you have to explain what baseball is because it wasn't invented at the time of slavery, playing in a ballpark named for a stick of chewing gum, who will be talking about slavery in the context of men, some of them African Americans, who are paid millions of dollars to throw a ball around and hit it with a stick. You couldn't make something like that up. We can't get it right all these hundreds of years later, and will we, hundreds of years from now, will we get it right about race? I think the answer is probably no.
Because?
Because it's so sensitive. It's so, we still can't talk about it without stepping back and taking a breath. There are some subjects, slavery is one of them, the Holocaust is another, that you just have to be very, very careful of the context you use.
Well, absolutely, but the Holocaust, I mean, there aren't really two sides to the Holocaust argument in any sense. I mean, slavery aside here for a second, there aren't two sides to that, but there are multiple views of the problem and the nature of the problems of race in America.
And I was also thinking today, yeah, there's no getting around it, you're correct. I was also thinking today, think of the terminology used in sports. Sports is probably the only business where you talk about selling someone, you talk about buying someone, you talk about trading for someone. It's obviously it's not slavery or anything close to it because the people being sold and traded are paid millions of dollars. It's just an interesting confluence of language on a day like this.
It is just this odd irony that the president is in one place and Dusty Baker found himself in another. It's good to see you, Mr. Green. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Bob Green in Chicago. Still ahead tonight, declassified transcripts on the Israeli attack against the USS Liberty American warship. CNN's David Ensor has that. Morning papers, too, before we say goodbye for the night. But we take a break first. This is NewsNight.
Why do we work? Why do we get up every day and leave the people we love? At the Principal Financial Group, we know you work for more than just a paycheck. For 120 years, the Principal has helped people keep more of the money they make and do more with the money they save. You work hard. We make work hard for you. The Principal Financial Group. We understand what you're working for.
There are war stories too secret or too politically sensitive to tell. And for 36 years, this was one of them. Now, thanks to a historian's lawsuit, the story of the USS Liberty is being told. It concerns a moment during a war in which the United States was almost certainly spying on a close ally, and a moment when, for reasons still being disputed tonight, the ally hit back hard. Here's CNN's David Ensor.
By the time the Israeli Air Force and Navy finished their attack on the USS Liberty in 1967, 34 Americans were dead, 171 injured, and the ship ready for the scrap heap. The tapes in Hebrew of Israeli pilots and ground control and English transcripts, now being made public by the U.S. National Security Agency, shed new light on one of the most controversial mysteries in U.S. Navy history. Why did the Israelis attack an American surveillance ship that was monitoring communications in the Six-Day War? On the tape, recorded by a nearby American surveillance aircraft, you hear the Israeli ground controller talking to rescue helicopter pilots sent in after the initial Israeli attack. For your info, it is apparently an Arab ship. Roger. It is an Egyptian supply ship. Roger. Miami Judge Jay Crystal, who pried the tapes out of the NSA, says they show the attack was a tragic accident in time of war, that the Israelis mistook the ship for an Egyptian one.
I don't think there's any question that anyone who reads these tapes would be absolutely convinced that there was the fog of war out there.
Later on the tape, the Israelis sound confused and concerned. Ground control orders the chopper pilots to look for survivors and check their nationality. If they speak Arabic, Egyptians, you're taking them to Al Arish. If they speak English, non-Egyptians, you're taking them to Lod. Is that clear? Roger.
Here the transcripts are saying, well, there may be people speaking English on this ship. Why would you say that if it's an Egyptian ship carrying horses?
To James Bamford, author of A History of the NSA, the tape suggests the Israelis may have deliberately attacked the U.S. spy ship, perhaps fearing, for some reason still not known, that it was spying on them. On the tape, after the rescue helicopter pilot tells ground control he sees an American flag on the ship, he gets an order in return. They request that you make another pass and check once again whether it is really an American flag. The comment suggests the Israelis were surprised at word of a U.S. flag, but it also runs counter to what Israeli fighter pilots and torpedo boat crews have always insisted, that they could not see an American flag.
Clearly the flag was there because the intercepts show that the helicopter pilots saw it immediately before they ever even got up to the ship.
That flag now hangs in the U.S. Cryptology Museum in Fort Meade, Maryland, adjacent to NSA headquarters, which released the tapes and transcripts.
I think that this is probably the most important link in the evidence that ought to bring closure to this matter.
Several surviving members of the Liberty crew argue that far from putting the matter to rest, the tapes only underline the continuing need for a full, public U.S. investigation.
A simple investigation. That's all they have to do. Find out what happened. If anybody did anything wrong, punish them.
In a letter to Crystal, the NSA said, contrary to rumors, there was no U.S. submarine in the area watching, and the Liberty itself got no recordings that are relevant, so this latest addition to the public record may be the last. Israeli embassy spokesman Mark Regev said, the tapes are, quote, further evidence that the Liberty incident was a terrible and tragic case of mistaken identity. David Ensor, CNN, Washington.
Take a break and then morning papers. We're right back.
CNN Tomorrow. Is Lacey Peterson's murder linked to the killing of a pregnant woman in San Francisco? Court TV's Nancy Grace, only on Larry King Live. CNN Tomorrow, 9 Eastern.
We don't understand why the big brewers expend so much effort creating those cute little talking animals.
Help.
Our efforts go into creating fine handcrafted beers.
On the nose.
But if you must have an animal endorsement, take it away, Spot.
Drink Blackstone beer.
Hey, what did you expect? We're brewers.
I love this beer.
To design a car online, just go to vhex.com.
I like a convertible.
What about a coupe? You can select features.
You like blue? I like blue.
Add options.
Check out the CD changer.
Change options.
You don't need a CD changer.
Then search inventories to find it in stock.
Do you mind?
All that's left? Deciding who will drive it. vhex.com.
roadmap to the automotive world.
$45 on a $150 bill.
It's an auction. Don't miss the nation's most exciting auction right here in Middle Tennessee. Nashville Power Sport Auction has an incredible selection of merchandise available for your bidding pleasure. Dealership liquidations, boats, jet skis, antique cars, four-wheelers, commercial mowers, truckloads of high-end furniture, and $1 million in fine jewelry. To see photos of auction items, visit NashvillePowersportAuction.com. It's Saturday, July 12th. Viewing begins at 7 a.m. Auction starts at 9 a.m. Take I-40 to Mount Juliet, exit 232B. Follow the signs to Nashville Power Sport Auction.
Sold.
Auto insurance is not some do-it-yourself project.
I tried an 800 number I saw on TV.
It really takes sitting down with an expert.
But like maintenance, it's who you know.
Grange Insurance is only sold through independent agents.
I sat down with my agent, told her my life story, and she said,
Grange is the best choice for your car.
And I'm real comfortable with that.
Parker & Watts Insurance offers low rates, and we pride ourselves on quality customer service. Come visit Parker & Watts Insurance for all of your insurance needs.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Okie dokie, time to check morning papers from around the country and perhaps even around the world, depending on how it works out tonight. We begin with USA Today. For those of you traveling, you'll find this on your doorstep. For those of you who work in local news operations, will also find this on your doorstep also. Two stories catch our eye. Food labels must soon reveal the worst kind of fat. FDA to mandate trans fat listing. Anybody can understand that? I don't know. Here's one I'll get you. The USA Today and does a great job with travel stories. In-flight entertainment systems linked to scores of jet difficulties. Okay, I don't know when you fly. I don't like difficulties on my plane. Anyway, I haven't read the story, but I suspect it's just fine. Crime story also on the front page, USA Today. Okay, the San Francisco Chronicle, FDA orders trans fat on food labels also. I hope they explain this. And then they have a picture of an Oreo cookie. Is Oreo cookie bad for you? I didn't know that. Oh, it was good for you. I thought that was health food. We said earlier, it's a terrible day, crime day across the country, and one of those was in Kern County, California, shooting horror, 5 slain. How much time? 1 minute. Okay, we should be fine. Chicago Sun-Times, should city work be set aside for gays, is the headline in the Chicago Sun-Times. That's part of the plan from the city's first openly homosexual alderman, so that's a front page story. Up here, okay, I don't get this one either. Channel 2 employee allegedly stole $1.8 million with company credit card. You'd think they'd catch on. Channel 2 in Chicago. The Washington Times, sorry I slowed down there for a second. Crash caused Lynch's horrific injuries. Why did it take so long for the military to come out with this report? This thing happened in late March. Come on, get it. And that's Morning Papers. That's the program. We're all back tomorrow, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. We trust you will be as well. Good night for all of us. The NewsNight.
It's been tough lately, but you stay the course.
Because to you, investing is a journey.
And like any journey, the time comes when you gotta ask directions.
But who are you gonna ask?
Who are you going to ask? Some stranger standing by the economic roadside?
You want to ask someone who's
made this trip thousands of times before.
The last thing you want to hear on this trip is, hey, are we lost?
Being in control of your financial future has never been more important. Call 1-800-FIDELITY for a comprehensive portfolio analysis today.
You got 1 vanilla cone. Did you want sprinkles on that?
Yeah, sprinkles be great.
Lost your wallet? We'll help you replace any major credit card 24/7 when you carry American Express Traveler's Checks. Available at a bank near you. No longer available at most AAA offices.
Sprinkles.
With an allergy headache, every sneeze can hurt. Now there's new Advil Allergy Sinus. It's different. The first and only allergy relief with the pain-relieving power of Advil. It's advanced. A new study shows that when Advil is combined with its allergy medicine, you get better relief. It's here. Stopping allergies that hurt in a whole new way. Advance to new Advil Allergy Sinus. Stop allergies that hurt.
In 1211, the Carpathian brothers took a vow of silence. Luckily, it only pertains to offline. Because right now, AOL members can get AOL for Broadband, the first online service specifically designed to maximize your high-speed connection for a great low price, now for a limited time. And when you can get streaming news and sports highlights and send instant messages with video, pictures, and songs, who needs talking? Call now to get the only high-speed online experience with all the power of the world's largest online community, with sessions at AOL, radio at AOL, and music at AOL, plus AOL's powerful pop-up controls, latest generation parental controls, and a junk mail filter that helps you block unwanted email, report it, and helps filter it out altogether. AOL for Broadband. Welcome to the worldwide.
Closed captioning provided by Prudential Real Estate.
The Prudential Real Estate Network can get you moving. With over 44,000 sales professionals you can rely on. Find out why millions of people are sold on Prudential Real Estate.
This is Lou Dobbs Tonight for Tuesday, July 8th. Sitting in for Lou Dobbs, Jan Hopkins.
Good evening, everyone. Hunting Saddam Hussein.